that ordinance. So be very clear, that money does not go to anything that comes on a criminal side related to marijuana. Okay? That being said, the tax initiative that has been put on the ballot, if we're going to have marijuana in this county, we damn well better have a tax, because that's the only way the sheriff's department is going to be able to combat that. Because those monies from our property, or from their taxes, remember, that's not taxes to you folks, that's, well, the folks that aren't growers anyhow. The folks that are growing are going to pay a tax. That money goes into the general fund. Those general fund dollars can be given to the sheriff's department, to the planning commission, and to any entity that has to combat this marijuana. So, that being said, my understanding, by a calculation of some numbers, is that at the 770 number that we're at for commercial growers right now, they're talking about 13 to maybe $15 million that's going to go into the general fund. That is going to help the sheriff's department deal with the problems that we're going to have. They're coming. I won't lie to you. You guys are adults. You see the writing on the wall. You saw what happened last year. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Somebody's going to get greedy. They're going to come up here and they're going to try to steal somebody's marijuana, and there's going to be a shooting. I'm trying to be honest with you. It's going to happen. My concern is for you folks, the citizens that don't want the stuff here or that have to deal with it now. If I don't have the funds to combat it, there's nothing I can do. Bill McManus, and this is in Friday, July 17th newspaper, Bill McManus was quoted in saying, "We found that regulation without enforcement is chaos." Okay? What is no regulation without enforcement? Because I'm in that boat. If we don't have regulation, I don't have the funds to combat it. It's a double-edged sword, and unfortunately for our communities, we're here. We have to deal with it. And at this point, the only way that I see that we can deal with it is with regulation. If somebody has an idea of how to ban commercial marijuana and give the county the funds so that the sheriff's department can combat it, please come to my office. I will give you all the time of the day to tell me how we can do it, because I don't know.
98% tax.
On what?
The marijuana grown.
Well, you're back to putting marijuana on the table. Okay? Now, I have a young man here who is my sergeant, who is in charge of my MET team, which is marijuana enforcement team. Him and I just came back from Colorado. They have a 7.5% sales tax on medical marijuana and a 27% sales tax on recreational marijuana. So these folks here that are growing need to be very thankful that that's all the tax that they're going to get is the 7%. So there's money to be made for the county to combat it. This year is, excuse my French, going to be hell. We are going to have a very difficult time combating all of this, and I want the public to know this. The marijuana growers that are going to be illegal are going to be illegal. There are plenty of marijuana growers out here that I believe want to conform, and that's great. They have been extra eyes and ears for me. So they do give me some of the information on the illegal grows, so I thank them for that. But the illegal people are still here. They're not going anywhere. If we ban this stuff, they're still going to be here. Trust me, they've been here for 38 years that I've been here. They're not going anywhere, and there are more of them now than there have ever been because of our fire. So we need to figure out how to deal with it. I want to talk about this initiative that's been put on the ballot by Stephen O. and Marita Callaway. That initiative has more holes in it than Swiss cheese. It is going to cause this community a lot of problems. It takes away all of my power, being the sheriff's department, to do half of the stuff that the emergency ordinance has got in place right now. That ordinance is going to be atrocious. We're not going to be able to deal with a lot of things that are going to come of it. Now, I'm not saying that the government is the perfect entity to put an ordinance together, But at this point, I would rather see this ordinance die on the vine and let the county, along with the community's involvement on their open forums, to have your input on what should be put in there. The emergency ordinance gives me the opportunity to check anybody who is going to have a commercial grow. So if they have a felony or if they have certain types of misdemeanors, I can deny them because of what they've got going on. That initiative ordinance takes that away from me. That's bad juju in my book. Okay? I could go through, I have the ordinance in here, I have a list of things that are wrong with it. That's the most important one. The emergency ordinance, I don't know, how many, by raise of hands, how many people are there until 11 o'clock on May 10th with me? A handful of you. There were some things that were put in that were supposed to be put in the emergency ordinance, which would have given me a little bit more horsepower to combat some of this. One of them was anybody who works on one of these commercial grows, I should have been able to background. That is not in the emergency ordinance. That is not in this initiative ordinance. So that means there could be potential felons working in our communities on these marijuana grows, and we are not going to know. They could be sex offenders, they could be murderers, they could be rapists, they could be anything they want because they do not have to register. That ordinance is terrible. That's one of the other issues.
Doesn't a sex offender have to register when he moves about?
They should, but they don't all do. Okay?
And if the felon is on probation, they couldn't work in that industry, right?
Again, not supposed to, but how do I know that they're a felon if I can't background check them?
Well, I would imagine, I worked with a lot of probation officers. I'm a social worker in Contra Costa, and your probation officer needs to know where you're working.
Okay,
So
how
if
many
they
people
do-
do you have that are on probation that don't check in, that are absconded?
Well, I'm working with youth, so.
Okay.
But my.
But
people
I'm saying
check
it
in.
happens.
Yeah.
The issue is that if, hang on Marty, the issue is if they have a felony, I don't know about it because I can't background check them because it was not put in the emergency ordinance, it was not put into this initiative ordinance that's on the ballot that you folks are going to vote on November 8th. It takes away a lot of the horsepower that I have to protect you folks. Yes, Marty. Okay, I'll do that. No more questions. Marty just spoke. Okay, anyhow, back to this. If the county has the ability to put an ordinance together like they did the emergency ordinance, we have some time. They can extend the emergency ordinance in February to put this ordinance together. I understand there's $170,000 on the table for an EIR, which is an environmental impact report. That doesn't have to be done if this initiative ordinance gets passed. But let me tell you what, that $170,000 is chump change to pay for an EIR as opposed to what it's going to cost us if we don't do this right. There's no other county around right now that is doing what we're doing. We are the lead dog, let's say. So I say let's do this right. If we're going to do it, let's do it right. I don't know how we can combat it if we don't regulate it. Is Kaz here yet?
He's on the way, supposedly.
He's on the way from where? He's got to water his plants. He forgot to water them. Doesn't have them on automatic timer. Okay.
This is not a combative situation.
Who said it was combative?
You're acting like it is.
I never said it was combative.
You're making fun of people.
To deal with. I'll change the word. To deal with. Is that better? To deal with. I'll change the word. Deal with.
Are you a grower?
If you have a problem with it, I will remove you. I'm not going to put up with it. Okay. Josh, you got any questions? Come on up here. I want to introduce you guys. This is Sergeant Josh Crabtree. He's my sergeant in charge of my MET team. You will see him out and about. He's going to be running the folks that are going to be dealing with the ordinances and the illegal grows and the legal grows. My plan is to put together a few teams to deal with all this that's going on. With 770 commercial grows, I can tell you that there's going to be a lot of them that are illegal. I have a grow that is 2 doors away from me. I have another grow that is 7 doors away from me. I know of a couple of grows right down the road from me. And I live down in the Wallace area. So they're everywhere. So don't by any means think that I'm immune to this too, because I have to deal with it in my neighborhoods. My intent is to make this project as citizen friendly as I can. It's going to take some time to get it together. So the only thing I can ask of the citizens is to give me the opportunity to make this work for us. We have an 800, or not an 800 number, but a hotline, a tip line for medical marijuana. If you're not aware of it, I will get it. 6870, 754-6870. You can call, leave an anonymous tip. It goes right straight to my net team, and I have somebody that is going to be dedicated to following up on those phone calls. I will tell you up front that we will deal with the most complaint residences or properties that we get. Those are going to be our priorities. People that you see walking with guns, we need to know about those people. We need to be able to deal with those. If there's somebody walking around with a gun, we have a right to go and contact them and find out what the heck's going on and check them to see if they are a convicted felon. But back to this initiative, I don't want this to get out of line. I need folks to understand about this initiative that is going to be on the ballot in November. Please do due diligence and read it so that you understand it. Don't take my word for it if you don't want to. Please read it. Anyhow, this is Sergeant Josh Crabtree. He's in charge of our Met team.
How you doing? I won't talk very long. I've been working in this county for 14 years. We actually went to the academy together, both went to SWAT school together. I've done marijuana operations since 2000. I worked in a counter drug task force in Mendocino County, Humboldt County, Lake County, every county in the state except for like the 3 northeast counties. I've never seen anything like this before. So congratulations to all your growers. You've outrun Humboldt and Mendo County because I'm bringing people up here and we're flying almost every day. And they are amazed with what they are seeing. The issue that I have is greed. 22,000 square feet is a half a football field. That is a lot of marijuana. There are people in this county that have registered 22 sites, I believe. Others 10, 15, whatever. That's a lot of marijuana. The amount that we are seeing is nothing like I've ever seen before anywhere in the state. And when you're given the opportunity to grow 22,000 square feet, why are you going to push the envelope and do 70,000 square feet? Why are you going to start talking about open air sessions? I watch everything that goes on Facebook too. And more and more and more. It's like, here's the ordinance, you've been allowed to come and grow, and now you want more. You want more, you want more. The next thing I guarantee that we'll see are BHO labs, honey oil. Because the THC content is concentrated, it's between 75 and 90% in honey oil. Depends on how they make it. Those things explode all the time, and they cause big fires. And I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but we've had a lot of fires already. The problem is I've seen growers that are like legitimately doing the right thing, 5,000 square feet. They don't need 22,000 square feet. They're happy with 5,000 square feet. This guy is the only one out of dozens that I've been to that would even come close to being certified so far. Everywhere we've been, there's major issues. Not to mention, so the fires, and what he's saying about the backgrounds, we're coming across felons already. And every grow that I go to, the big boss is never there. So the guy that registers is never there. It's always some employee. And that employee is in background check. So that guy's running around the woods, doing whatever they do at night amongst your families. and we don't know who they are, and we can't background check them. So, I mean, that's my issue. Is it's here, we have to deal with it, but now people are getting greedy, and it's getting to the point where we're having some serious issues. The county made over $3 million with all the registrations. We went to Colorado and they said for every $1 million that you make in revenue, you spend $3 million combating it. If you think about the big picture, the Appaloosa fire was over $1 million. So now we're down to $2 million. There's a couple other fires which probably weeded that down, so now we're down to $1.5 million that the county's made. Granted, it's going to come from state funds because Cal Fire had to fight the fire, but it all comes back around at some point. But anyway, that's all I got to say. I know it's hot here, so.
Okay, I guess they gave everybody cards to put questions down. I see Kaz is here. I'll let him come up and talk a little bit. If you haven't written down your questions, go ahead and write them down, and then I guess we'll take a quick 5-minute break after Kaz talks. Come up.
Everybody, my name is Kaz Tomaszewski. I'm the Executive Director of the Calaveras Cannabis Alliance. I'm going to stand up here where I'm not quite as tall as Rick. For those of you who do not know what we do, we've been existing in Calaveras County for about 6 years now. We existed for most of that time under the name of Collective Patient Resources. About a year ago, we changed our name to Calaveras Cannabis Alliance. What we do, our goal is to advocate for the social and economic betterment of growers and also of our community be growing. So that means we're not only out looking out for our growers and to find them a place in this community, we're also looking for a peaceful way to integrate them and that takes care of the community and supports it the way it should be done.
Speak up.
Louder? Get a little bit closer to this thing?
Yeah.
This really started for us in a big way in April 2015. At that time, the board was considering what to do with cannabis. A ban was being considered, regulation was being talked about. One of the things that we did differently here that is not often done, we looked at how growers talk to their government and their communities in other places. And one common thread you will find is that you get growers getting up to a podium, screaming about the medical benefits and you can't take my medicine. And when someone brings up a problem with cannabis, often it's, oh, either that's exaggerated or it doesn't exist or we didn't do it. We do not believe that is a way to inspire confidence or trust in our community or our government. And so what we did is we led with talking about the problems. We talked about, yes, there's environmental damage. Yes, there's crime. Yes, there's risk in our neighborhoods. There's impacts to roads. There's all of these issues. What we tried to get across is from the outside, we all look the same. If you grow cannabis, to a lot of people we do. We look the same. And so to people that are concerned about cannabis or have had a really bad neighbor, one of those criminals, especially those that masquerade as a good guy, it's under Prop 215, which we can talk about later, there is no distinction there. And what we try to do is bring to the table is like, look, there's two camps. There's an ethical divide amongst growers in Calaveras. On one side, you have the enduring criminal element. You have people that don't care about the communities, that are out for personal gain, that are either linked to organized or non-organized crime of some sort. And on the other side of that ethical divide, you have people like me, like my board of directors, like the growers that CCA represents, people who have gotten into this industry because we see a way to better ourselves without it being an expense to the community. The issue is that we know that in order for that to work, we have to unsaddle ourselves from the people on the other side of that ethical divide. And our argument to the county was, and in the beginning, no one really believed these numbers, but they do now. Why throw the baby out with the bathwater if regulation can work? If you've got 200 growers out there doing it the wrong way, and often a lot of these complaints come back to the same clumps of growers. Why throw out the other 800 that are doing it right if you don't even know are there because your back is free? The only issue is we have not been given access to contribute. We're not being taxed. We're not into the system. We're not getting fee monies. So we said, hey, come out, tour our gardens, get to know us. Let's explain how we do this. At least give us a chance to look at how these things work. And the one thing that worked is they decided we were worth listening to. And the county began looking at strategies for dealing with cannabis. And the first one on the docket was a ban. And a ban of anything is the very first thing that comes to mind whenever there's an issue with anything, whether it's cannabis or any other thing. But there's issues with bans. Primarily the fact that how do you pay for it? If you have a system that deals with cannabis, you have something in high demand, pretty just everywhere in the country. On top of that, in this county, you have a climate unlike anywhere else in the country, just about. We have probably the second best climate for growing this anywhere in the country. You also have really low land prices, and you have low budgets for enforcement. We're a poor county. That means that there's constant pressure on this place for marijuana to be grown here. And if you ban, you need money to handle that. You need a way, you need funds. And right now, Calaveras doesn't have it. In fact, most counties do not have that. You have a number of ways you can do this. You can have a fine-driven system. And there's places doing that, places like Butte and Yuba, where they have like a $10,000 a day fine, and they also eradicate. But what they find is when they go after these growers, they cut down their only means of making money. The growers don't have the means to pay the fines. They have 6% collections. What this means is that the county sinks money into enforcement in private areas. They do manage to clear out some of the complaint cases in neighborhoods, but they actually end up losing money on that, and then a lot of the organized crime element moves back into the public lands and the large unmonitored tracts of private lands. And over again, that ban scenario has not worked. The only thing that's left for a county like ours, if we want to try to deal with this issue in terms of funding, is state and federal programs and grants. And when you look at that option, what you have essentially is the way that Humboldt has operated. And you guys have probably heard about Humboldt. Humboldt is very similar to us in that in its history, it has not necessarily, when you might be surprised, the most supporting cannabis ordinance. What they have is they have nothing on the books, which in a land of permissive zoning like we have here is an implicit ban, and they relied, because they were relatively poor, again on the books, on federal and state programs for eradication. And what we saw there is that the industry continued to grow because there was constant incentive for growers to move there. The terrain was too easy to hide in. It was too easy to shirk the law. And so despite reliance on these programs, the problem continued to get worse. So our argument was, whether or not you like cannabis, even if you hate it, please, county, at this time we were talking about, take a look at what actually works. And obviously at this time, regulation is very new. Pretty much the only examples anybody has are Colorado and Washington. I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of problems with those programs. One thing to the credit of the Sheriff's Department is I know they're all over this. These guys have been analyzing the issues with the out-of-state programs for a long time now. And there's some very simple things that can be fixed there. What we want to do, plain and simple, is those of us that are doing it right, you've probably never seen us. You've probably never talked to us because the bad guys get all the press. But what we want to do is we want to pay to get the bad guys out of here. We want the county to tax us to be the only viable source of monies for that to happen, to get those guys out. That's the opportunity we're looking for. And again, the way that this works is not immediately intuitive. The reasons why bans have issues are not immediately intuitive. They require some explanation. And there's also a lot of concerns that are very valid from law enforcement, for other county departments. The one big thing we have, because all these programs are in their infancy and just starting out, it's hard to establish trends. The one that you can count on is the very applicable comparison of the prohibition of alcohol in this country in the 30s. When alcohol was illegal, it nearly created the modern mob. They had complete control over a commodity that had high demand. Things got out of control with crime. Everything related to alcohol-related crime, from abuse and addiction to alcohol-related violence, spiked. The government did not have the means to get a handle on it. The means they employed to stop that system from happening is they set up and incentivized legitimate industry, i.e. in Budweiser, domestic breweries. What that did was set up that legitimate industries, it drops the price point out of the black market. They then taxed that market and quintupled their enforcement on the black market. When they did that, the price went down, the risk went up, and it broke that static relationship of risk to reward. And over time, the alcohol black market all but disappeared. Now we know, and a lot of people know about the rum runners at that time, right? The extremely robust illegal alcohol trade. It doesn't really exist anymore. But the thing is, for a good long time, at least countrywide, it takes a number of years to really come into effect for the system to figure out how to do it right and to slowly stamp out those bad guys. for us here in Calaveras, what that means with regulation is this coming harvest is still going to be difficult for the community. We have a lot of problems. We have a bunch of people that rushed out of the fire before the county had a chance to put in a moratorium. We have the budget from fees that came in, but it's not enough on its own. There's a lot of personnel that need training. There's a lot of things that need doing. The goal is by this time next year to have taken a big chunk out of that, and we do believe it can be done. And one of the things that's behind this is before we got on this track, we did a lot of research, and we did a lot of calls, a lot of talk, and we sat down with a lot of people. We do believe this can be done, and we do think it is the best way for the community. And what I'm here today to do, hopefully, is to field any questions and help to explain how that could be. We don't win any trust and any comradeship with people in our community, the non-growers, without fielding hard questions. And so if you have any for me, I would very much like to answer them. My only thing I ask is that you don't yell at me too much. I definitely would like to hear some of those things and have a chance to answer. Thank you very much for listening. Now, Tom, will I have a chance for a Q&A session, or do you want to do a break first? Okay, going to do a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back?
Yeah, and fill out your cards, and then what we're going to do is divide the questions between the sheriff and okay, so everybody take a break.
Use the mic.
What?
Use the mic.
And fill out the cards that you were given, and then we'll have the sheriff answer the questions.
5-minute break, everyone.
Oh, I'm not ready. Oh. Say hi. We should